All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Star Wars Day. Welcome to the May the 4th Gnomon Info session with special guest Iain McCaig. I'm so excited to do this stream today. My name is Adam Hartel. I'm a recruiter at Gnomon. We're also joined on the stream by my colleagues Ray, who is also a recruiter, and Xander from our admissions team at Gnomon. And they're going to be moderating the chat today. They're going to be taking questions. You feel free to type in a question about Gnomon or a question for Iain at any time into the chat. They're going to keep tabs on those, and we're going to find a time during the stream to do our best to answer as many of the questions for Iain as we can a little bit later. So I'm really excited because today we get to have a conversation with Iain McCaig about Star Wars, about creativity, which Iain is a grandmaster of, and Gnomon. Following our conversation with Iain, we're also going to be sharing some additional information about Gnomon and our educational offerings. And just really quick, for those of you who are tuning into the stream that may not be familiar with Gnomon, Gnomon is a 3D art school in Hollywood, and we train artists for careers in visual effects, games, and animation. And the fun thing about beginning to share with you about Gnomon today is that a lot of what we teach in the digital production pipeline has its roots in the analog techniques that George Lucas and the team at Industrial Light and Magic pioneered with the first Star Wars film in 1977. So Star Wars is a huge part of VFX history, guys. So let's get right into it. I would like to tell you a little bit about our guest who's going to be coming on in a moment. Iain McCaig is a master storyteller, concept artist, illustrator, director, producer, teacher. The list goes on. In film, he is best known for designing Star Wars characters such as Padmé Amidala, Darth Maul, and he's contributed key designs to some of the films in Star Wars franchise, including Episode 1, Episode 2, 3, and 7. Among his other credits are Terminator 2, Hook, Interview with a Vampire, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Charlotte's Web, Peter Pan, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, The Spiderwick Chronicles, John Carter of Mars, The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Jungle Book. And Iain was also co-producer and concept design director for the film Outlander. And in October 2008, a book of McCaig's work called Shadowline, The Art of Iain McCaig, was released. And this book is a combination of many art classes, an allegorical novella on McCaig's creative process, and a retrospective of 28 years of his film and personal work. Iain McCaig's taught drawing and storytelling publicly and privately for most of his career. He is the author of 4 DVDs on visual storytelling and concept design for the Gnomon Workshop. And in 2014, McCaig received the Spectrum Award for Grandmaster. So we're really excited. Iain, welcome to the stream.
Hey! Hi, everybody. Hi, Adam.
Welcome, Iain. May the 4th be with you.
And the 4th be with you, too.
All right. So, hey, let's jump into it. I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with you last week, and we covered a lot of really interesting stuff. So we're in for some fun things today. And obviously, we're here to talk about Star Wars, but we also really want to talk about the creative process and you as well. A little bit later, we'll be talking about Gnomon. But one of the things that came up when we got to talk last week was there are a lot of very typical questions that get asked to you about Star Wars. And
All
then
the time.
there are the atypical questions. So that really led us to a point of asking you, Iain, what are some of the things that you wish that you would be asked about Star Wars? And what really makes Star Wars Star Wars? So I'll hand it
That's
over
a
to
good
you at this
one.
point. Yeah.
What makes Star Wars Star Wars? That was one of the first things George asked us. Like I said last week, we came in on episode 1. There'd been a long break between George directing Star Wars, making Star Wars movies, and these new ones. And he said, when I started, there was really, old-fashioned science fiction, space operas, Flash Gordon, stuff like that. And then there was 2001 and Planet of the Apes, and that was kind of it. So Star Wars got to be its own thing. But now, my gosh, there's Blade Runner and there's Star Trek and there's all these other science fiction shows. So what is it that actually makes Star Wars Star Wars? And we pondered that for a little while. And then the thing that really broke the ice for me was when is Star Wars set? Seriously, what period, what time period is it set in? It's not set in the future because it happened a long, long time ago, right? Which means it's got to be mythology. And the moment that I got that this was a legend, this was something from the ancient past, it was easy to design for Star Wars. You can take any myth or legend from anywhere in the world and put a little floating droid beside it, and it worked. It was Star Wars. And I did. I plundered. There were centaurines and there's Medusas and all kinds of different things. And if you look at Darth Maul, he's a devil. He's the archetype of the devil. So there you are. That is what Star Wars is for me. George then came up and told us the real answer, which typical George is always much shorter. He said it's real life with a little twist.
When we were talking last week, you also had mentioned something about getting to visit George in his home. I think while he was actually working on the script for the Phantom Menace. Is that right?
Yeah, he doesn't live at Skywalker Ranch. We worked up there. It was an amazing place to work. But no, he lives in San Anselmo. There's a big white house there that looks like the more authentic original version of the amazing one he built up at the ranch. But every once in a while, you'd go up there and show him some storyboards, show him some concept art, because he was locked down. He was trying to finish the script and so on. And I got lucky enough to go in as he wrote the last words of the Phantom Menace. And he looked at me, oh, do you hate writing as much as I do? And I don't. I love writing. So I told him, and he goes, I hate you. And I got to go up onto his little writing room up there. And amazing. It's like the deck of a ship. It's like a captain's deck. And he has all kinds of books on mythologies, classics, great legends and things all around him. And a lot of notes from those books. So we were talking about that too. What is special about Star Wars? What makes it work? And for me, it was kind of American Graffiti in space, right? It's about boys and girls and hormones and choosing your futures and all that kind of stuff, which is, George knows that super well. That was a period of his life he told fantastically well in American Graffiti. And then to make it fit with the space opera, it was kind of like he sprinkled all this DNA of these great archetypes and myths and legends, and he didn't bother to connect it. Right? That was not necessary for the story. The Force could be that mystical, wonderful thing that just made life bigger and better that you don't quite understand when you're a young man just starting off. And, it actually fits so well with the story being like that. But we're not creatures of chaos. We're creatures of order. So when we see a story with things that don't tie up, what do? We fix it. We connect the dots. And that's why I think that's why Star Wars has connected with so many people all around the world in all different cultures and all different ages, is that we contributed and each of us wrote our own answers to those Star Wars mysteries. So they're very personal stories, and they're different for every one of us.
That's beautiful. So for you, Iain, working on those projects, maybe I could ask, as kind of like how every piece of art is a little bit of a self-portrait of that artist.
Of course.
What do you feel, or some of yourself that you put in to some of those characters or designs you worked on?
Well, they're all me. Right? It's the only thing you have to give the world, really, truly, that is yours and no one else's, is you. Who you are and how you think and what you love and what you're afraid of and what your memories are and what you aspire to be and, all that stuff. You're the snowflake that will never happen again like that. And so I look at the job of an artist to constantly tap into that, constantly know what it is, right? So you have something to give. And then muster up the courage to actually share that with the world somehow. So you need the courage and you need the language. So the language is learn to draw, learn to paint, do it in any form you can. If it's traditional, great, do it. If it's digital, great, do it. Try sculpting, yes, try sculpting, do everything. That just expands your vocabulary, expands what you can say. But then truly, you reach inside and you look and it's either scary or boring or nothing. And you still have to share that. Because it might be scary and boring and nothing to you, but it's strange and bizarre and exciting to other people because they don't know what that's like. So, yeah, be courageous and put that out there. And for all the Star Wars characters, when I first joined, I went up to Skywalker Ranch, and Doug Chang and Tara Whitletch had been working for about a year, right? So the room is wallpapered in amazing creatures and spaceships and planets and robots and things, but nobody was doing the people. And I went, oh, do you mind if I draw those? Because, people, that's what I like to do best. Best fantasy creatures ever. And they all went, take them, take them. So by default, I got all the main characters. I got Obi-Wan, Anakin, Darth Maul, Padmé. It was so fun. And because it was a very, very small team, those were all mine. I didn't have to share that with anybody or co-design it with anyone. We had a lot of time too. We had, they'd been working for a year, and then I got another 4. I was there for 4 years designing this galaxy. We designed the heck out of it. There's stuff in drawers that people have still never seen. And a lot of it ended up in the Clone Wars. Thank you, Dave Filoni. He plundered those designs. It's just great. But yeah, that's a long time to get into things. And it was enough time to try and find the right answers for things like Darth Maul, because we'd only ever had Darth Vader before then. And what the heck is another Sith Lord look like? That was a huge question back then.
Is it true? Because I've heard, just as a point of trivia, is it true that Darth Maul was inspired by a nightmare that you had?
Nightmare. Well, yes and no.
Okay.
When I first started, all I had was Darth Vader to compare, and so of course I thought, well, he wants another helmet. So I spent a year trying to out-helmet Darth Vader and almost drove myself mad because you can't. It's a perfect design. A Nazi skull and a skull and a Nazi helmet. It's amazing. So finally, I to save my sanity, I figured, well, let's take the helmet off, see what's under there. And I know George had done that in Return of the Jedi. Was always a little disappointed, right, that he looked like Humpty Dumpty. I wanted more. I wanted something special in there, a circuit board on his face so he could connect with the mask or something. So I started playing around with that, and it has to be a real person. It has to be some personality that I can take and adapt into a character, because then I know everything about them. If it's just a generic face, you don't know anything. So I would take the head of the animatic group, and I did put a circuit board on his face, and then I took the photographer and I carved his head up and put a light inside it so he glowed from inside, and then the production designer came around, and I wanted to draw him. He's great face, Gavin, but he just said, "Don't make me look fat." So I put this kind of cowl thing on him and started putting tattoos, because with markings you can slim a face or widen a face. And I saw that look in George's eye, like I'd hit something there. And so I was about to start trying all sorts of patterns on faces when the script showed up. And this is quite a while later after we started. George told us the story week by week, almost like it was a bedtime story. We get the next little installment. And but finally, just as I'm about to do that final design for Darth Maul, up comes the script. And I get one other little piece of information about Darth Maul. Because up until then, all I'd had was Darth Maul. He's the new Sith Lord. Yeah. And then he walk off. He's like, plant, animal, what? And then the script said, Darth Maul, a vision from your worst nightmare. So that was easy. I knew my worst nightmare. It was me alone in a studio drawing late at night with that uncomfortable feeling that someone's watching you. You look at the window, and at the window there is a face pressed up against the window, and it is dead white with these metallic teeth and these glinting eyes, but it's a dead thing, and it's just watching as the rain pours down and distorts the face through the window, and you're on the second floor, so what the hell? And so I drew a stylized version of that. It was a dead white face with those metal teeth, and I used red ribbons instead of rain. And I was all proud because it scared the crap out of me. And I put it in a folder, and I handed it over to George at the next meeting. I was so excited to see his reaction. He opened it up and I went, "Oh my God!" And he clapped it closed, passed it back, and he goes, "Give me your second worst nightmare." And I thought, what? You know when you hit it. You know when it's a home run. That was a home run. What the hell? So that's when I went back to what is Star Wars. And I realized, oh, he doesn't want serial killer vampires at your window staring at you. He wants mythological evil, right? Not Hannibal Lecter. So I went back and drew my worst mythological nightmare, which is easy. That's clowns. I've been scared of clowns since I was about 3 years old. It was an event that happened, actually. We were leaving LA. I was born in LA and raised in Canada. So we were driving up from LA to Canada. And as we were leaving, I forget where it was, but there was a big hill. And there was a billboard on the other side with Bozo the Clown, right? Because the circus was coming to town. But have you ever looked at Bozo the Clown? Cover up the bottom half of him, right? What do you get? You get this big white skull. And it slowly comes up from behind the thing. You see these grinning eyes and this big red nose, bloody red nose. And I was screaming before we even got to the giant painted smile on his face. And I love clowns, really, truly. I've done mime and things like that, so I know how it works, and I think it's amazing. But they still terrify me quietly inside. So Darth Maul was my Bozo the Clown.
That's amazing.
I hate to say it. He was my Bozo the Clown.
I've never heard that before. That's incredible.
And I'd run out of faces. I didn't have anyone else in the art department to draw. So I drew me. And it's very easy when you're drawing yourself. You know everything about you. And so I could pull out all the evil parts of me, which my daughter says I'm as dark as a light bulb. So there aren't that many. But still, is the light bulb on or off? So I drew what I could, and yeah, it worked. George was very happy with it. I didn't have to do any other designs once I'd put those patterns on his face. The patterns were meant to be expression lines. So if you peel the flesh off your face and have a good look at what's left, the muscle patterns form a lot of the shapes that I put on Darth Maul's face. And I also did some ink blots, where you drop it into paper and do that and then open that up again. And I pulled some of those shapes and mixed it with the flesh muscles and all that stuff. And it worked. And then to make sure you were afraid of him, I went back to nature. And nature has certain colors and patterns that just say, I am poisonous and deadliest anything, and you don't mess with me. So, of course, red and black. Put that on anything and it's going to kill you, right? And then it's so cute the ladybugs copied it. Like, I'm a badass. Yeah, but you're this big and you're not poisonous. But they pretend they are, and so the other animals don't eat them. So anyway, so that's how Darth Maul ended up looking like that.
That's amazing.
And you make up stories because when George doesn't tell you anything, and it was great George not telling you anything, freaked me out for the first week. And then I realized, oh, wait, okay, I'm going to flatter myself that he cast me, that he wanted me because of the stuff I draw. So he's really just wanting my answers to things. And even if he doesn't use it, he just wants to see what that will produce. So it's always made up these goofy stories about what the characters were all about. And for Darth Maul, and trust me, I know a lot more about Sith Lords now, so does the world. Back then we didn't know much. And I thought, well, maybe he's got this ritual he does in the morning, right? That really pisses him off and it's painful. So he takes piano wire and he binds his head with this piano wire. And you can still see it. If you look at the drawing carefully, there's this indent of piano wire in his forehead. And there's these black feathers and they have to be in exactly the right place. Or he has to do it again and again. And so those stiffened black feathers were part of the original design, not horns. And when it went over to London to Nick Dudman and his crew who did the special effects makeup, he thought they were horns. And he just made them look more like horns, which was fine with me because it made him into a devil. I didn't even think about that at the time.
So were you? I mean, we all, as you said, we know so much more about Darth Maul now. Darth Maul became a very celebrated villain, a lot of
Right?
people's favorite villains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you aware that any of that was going to happen when you were doing the story?
No, we had no idea Darth Maul was going to be the big hit. We had all our money on Jar Jar. We were positive he was going to be the world's first fully CG animated character in a film. Um, he was meant to be like Charlie Chaplin. I think he was silent at first, which was really funny. All this energy, and he can't speak. And then when the strange language came out, um, it was it was weird. But the first person cast to that role was Michel Courtemanche, who was a French Canadian. And so for a while he was Jar Jar Binks, and the words came out with a lovely thick French accent, and it was just adorable. And he eventually became Ahmed Best, and that gained a lot, and that lost a little bit too, because I think they were afraid of overplaying him, which is such a mistake with Jar Jar. You got to overplay Jar Jar. Did you see the Robot Chicken episode?
Yes.
With
Yes.
it's so good, it's so
Yeah.
good, and Ahmed Best came back and did the voice for it, so great.
Hmm.
Yes, where Jar Jar finally gets to see Annie, but Annie's turned into Darth Vader, and
Hmm.
oh, what's the matter? You boiling yourself? And he pulls the helmet off, eyes bug out of his head, and anyway, I won't ruin it for people, but it's the funniest thing. Because they turned the volume up like all the way on Jar Jar, and
Hmm.
he's not annoying anymore. He's just adorably bizarre. And that makes you love him to
Yeah.
pieces.
Well, speaking of Robot Chicken and Jar Jar, there was another
Yeah.
thing that Robot Chicken, I think, helped to really get out to the public, and that was this notion that somehow Jar Jar was this evil, dark mastermind behind everything. And I know that you've got a few things to say about that.
I do. But it's terrible. I like urban legends, and I like seeing what the world does to facts and how quickly we like to weave them into stories and things. So I apologize if this is a spoiler. If you would like to believe that we were maybe thinking of making Jar Jar the most evil thing in the entire Star Wars galaxy, then don't listen for the next few minutes. I'm going to tell you what really happened. So the film came out, and universal hatred was aimed at Jar Jar for all kinds of different reasons. My personal reason is just that, for those, what was it, 20 years, many years between the Star Wars films, we connected the dots. We wrote our own Star Wars, and then we kept bothering George. Hey, is that the answer? Is this it? Is this it? And he finally went, oh, I don't know. Go make a game. go do a comic or something and leave me alone. But finally, they bugged him enough. He went, all right, I'll tell you what I was thinking. And what he was thinking was the answer that was in the prequels. And because none of us wrote that answer, how dare he destroy our Star Wars, right? Because that was what we had written. And so all this hatred poured out, at poor George, and we needed a lightning rod for it. So Jar Jar was just standing there waiting for that to happen, which is so funny because that would happen to him in real life in the films too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see. Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, I think I got lost too, but I think the question had to do with this theory that got sort of this urban legend that got
the
popularized.
theory,
Yeah.
right? So thank you. So I would go and I would do these talks at art schools and film schools and stuff like that. And because at the time Jar Jar was hated so much, I would always ask. I would always say, "So, who loves Jar Jar?" Nothing. I go, "Who hates Jar Jar?" And there's this roar from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I went, "Great. Okay, well, you're all designers, and if you hate something, your job is to make it better. So how do you redeem Jar Jar as a character? Because we're about to make another Star Wars film, so tell us what to do." And they always, someone shouted out, "Kill Jar Jar!" I went, "Nope. That redeems the audience. That does not redeem the character. You're being lazy. How can you make him the most fascinating character that everybody will watch closely and then go back to the Phantom Menace and scroll through and watch him again? Why? What would make people do that?" And no one ever came up with the answer. So I finally told him, I said, what if Jar Jar does one of his stupid things and then walks around a corner and suddenly stands upright and his face shifts and he suddenly becomes the most terrifying thing you have ever seen. And you realize he's behind everything evil in Star Wars, including Palpatine. He's the puppet master to end all puppet masters because he's this weird dark force that just shapeshifts around the Star Wars universe. So everybody loved that, and then I would set it as an assignment, and I still have folders of images of people turning Jar Jar into that evil thing. Wonderful, wonderful pictures. But as happens, it then goes off and people forget where it came from, and suddenly now we were secretly planning that. And even Ahmed Best, when he did an interview recently, he talked about it as if, oh no, I can't answer that exactly. Only George can say. It's like, really?
That's brilliant. Okay. That's brilliant, though, because I think that creatives have the blessed ability to take things that we don't like and redesign them, and we can bring that generative presence. When we were talking last week, go ahead.
But it's storytelling, right?
Absolutely.
It just shows when people tell me, oh, I can't write a story. Yes, you can write stories. You write stories in a heartbeat. When you were born, you wrote the story of who you wanted to be and what you were going to be when you grew up, and kind of imagined your girlfriend and the car you drive and like all this stuff. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to make it happen, right? And then when it doesn't, you rewrite your story. So, we're natural born storytellers. And I think that it's really great to see people take things they love and weave myths and legends and stuff around it. As long as they don't try to do it for personal gain.
Yes.
Or to manipulate people, because that's called lying. But storytelling is to entertain, and I think we just naturally do that. We're all natural entertainers.
Well, and speaking of storytelling, I think we'll wrap sort of the Star Wars section with this.
Sure.
I don't know how much of this you're allowed to say or not allowed to say, but you sort of shared a little bit of your critique on the Phantom Menace, and you told a pretty incredible story about that.
Sure.
I'm trying to hint at it. I don't want to give too much.
No, I remember.
Yeah.
No, I can tell you. George actually, he didn't mind me telling people this because it happened and it's true. And it's just choices. You make choices, and you never know what the right choice is going to be. But originally, when we started in on Phantom Menace, the older Jedi was Obi-Wan, and the younger Jedi was Qui-Gon. And I didn't understand that till the end of the story, right? But the two, he pushed it even more, where they argued all the time, like passionately. And you could tell that really good friends, because nobody argues like that unless you are good friends. And the arguments were always about, Obi-Wan, the older Jedi, said, well, the Force just tells you what to do. You don't need rules. You don't need a council. You listen to the Force. But the young one was, yes, but Master, I want to be a Jedi. And if I don't pass my tests, if I don't do the rules, how will I know? He goes, the Force will tell you. And he goes, no, but it's not talking to me. So they argued nicely through the whole film. And at the very end, when that barrier comes up, it's young Qui-Gon that's stuck on the wrong side. And Obi-Wan, old Obi-Wan's out there with Darth Maul. And Darth Maul kills him. And as that happens, young Qui-Gon, you can just tell from an expression on his face, he slips over into the dark side. There's hatred and everything, and he just cuts his way through that force field, and he goes up and he kills Darth Maul. And then the moment's passed, and he realizes, oh shit, what have I done? What have I done? And he kneels down by his master's side because he realizes what I did is I listened to the Force. It told me what to do. So he says, Master, I was wrong. And I will take on your quest to train this boy. And I will also take on your name. And then Qui-Gon becomes Obi-Wan. Which, if you remember in A New Hope, when Luke calls out Obi-Wan, he turns and says, Obi-Wan, I haven't gone by that name since.
Yeah.
Right? So I love that, because then the story was about Obi-Wan. even if it was like the reincarnation of Obi-Wan and it gave you a central character. At the moment, there is no one central character that the story's about. And so for me, that makes the story weaker because there's no one engine to drive it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my take on Phantom Menace. And I remember, George was very apologetic when he decided to change it. He said, I know you like that bitty and have to take it out. It's like,
yeah.
but you don't call him an idiot. You don't argue with him and stuff. Back then, I did argue a lot in Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith, because I don't know, he seemed to enjoy it. He really enjoyed people challenging him on things and coming up with ideas. And I think we made a good Star Wars film out of that. There were a lot more story things that happened in Revenge of the Sith than made it to the screen. And we'll have a private conversation about those, or the stormtroopers will come in behind
Absolutely.
me. But, really, really fun. I had time of my life working with George. He was generous and funny and shy, very shy until you got to know him, and then he was just a hoot. So, great time.
Yeah, and I think as all of us know, I mean, George gave us a great gift.
Yes, he did.
Above all else, absolutely.
Yeah. Because eventually he said, okay, you have your Star Wars stories. You all wrote those answers. Fantastic. Here it is. Tell your stories. Yes. And I think we're all still a little scared of that. Right? Not me, but I mean, most people.
Absolutely.
They are playing kind of safe for a lot of the Star Wars things, which is fine. They're allowed to do that. But really, truly, you need to step on the stage like he did and take the reaction the audiences are going to give you, but tell your story. Give that piece of you, no matter what it is.
Definitely. One of the things that we want to talk about in the stream today is, this is the Gnomon Info stream is intended for aspiring artists that are looking for those pathways forward in their journey and their hero story.
For sure.
And I think there are some things that you touched on earlier about fear and about limitation. And in my role with school, I get to talk to a lot of younger prospective artists. And the common thing that always comes up is this self-limitation that sets in. We have one reason why we might want to be artists and 100 reasons why we shouldn't. What can you speak to that for the artists that are listening today?
As I told you last time, the guy who was putting fear in people on the conveyor belt when they were building us was on lunch break when I was there. And there's really not much I'm being afraid of. And if there is, that's what I'll do next. Because what is the point of fear except to show you what you should be doing? Right? Go, face it. You'll learn. We're a lot more than we know. And I think all of us know that when we surprise ourselves with our choices sometimes. So one of the best ways to get to know those invisible parts of you is to do things, to challenge yourself, to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. And then you can start to find the edges maybe of who you are and surprise yourself all that time. But for people who do face those fears, a lot of it comes from back when we were about 10 years old, right? And before that, nobody had any fears of drawing. Seriously, you pick up your crayons, you draw on any surface you possibly can. There's no payment for it. There's no motivation other than the joy of making marks, right? And then around about 10, suddenly your friends are watching you and it all has to be good, right? And so you freeze up. So a lot of this feeling like you have to be good, you have to have something to say, you have to be a genius. Maybe you have to be talented, right? And it's all an illusion. It's all a wall that we, like Ursula Le Guin's great quote, there's no walls so high and impenetrable as the ones we build for ourselves. So you have imagined that these things are important. And of course, that would freeze anybody up from working on their projects. But, it's just like being born tall. That's an advantage if you want to be a basketball player. It doesn't make you a basketball player, and it certainly is only a head start. If you work your butt off and learn basketball and practice and practice and practice, you're going to get really good at it. And then being tall won't count for all that much. It's really about your skill and your courage and your daring and all the rest. But for people who really do hear that inner critic to the point where they can't draw and they can't tell stories, Write or draw your inner critic.
Mm.
Seriously, draw a picture of it, and you will have power over it, and it will shut the hell up and and step back because they're afraid of being dragged into the light. I found that one night when my daughter, she had a nightmare and couldn't go back to sleep. So I said, "Well, this is easy. What was the nightmare about?" She goes, "A witch." "I know, witch." "Well, here's a piece of paper, and here's your pencils. Let's draw the witch." So she started drawing, and then she said, "I need more paper." So I gave her more paper and more paper and more paper, and pretty soon this witch spans the size of our living room, and it's just gigantic and fearsome. And she goes, "Oh, thank you. I feel much better now." Went to bed. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. It was terrifying. But she was okay after that. So I know if you can just draw the thing you're afraid of or the thing that's telling you you're no good, it won't come back for a while. And if it does, just draw it again.
That's beautiful because I think we, at least I know for myself, we try to spend so much time drawing the thing that we feel like we're not good enough to make, right?
Yes,
We're trying to
exactly. Yes.
aspire to
Yeah.
this imaginary ideal.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But the what you want to be is based on things that you've seen and know. What you will be is based on things that no one's seen because it's you, and you have never existed before.
Hmm.
So you have to both be inspired by all those amazing things that you see and then willing to accept what it is that you have that's different from all of those.
Hmm.
And it's hard. You see such great artwork. I mean, today there's a flood, there's a universe of fantastic work to look at. When I was in art school, there was not that much fantasy art that you could find, especially in Great Britain in 1974, and they weren't really into that. They had Dandere and stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot of the sharing that there is now. There was certainly no internet. And so it was very, very hard. Nobody knew Frank Frazetta for a start, or Star Wars hadn't been born. So there was very, very little. And now there's some of the most amazing imagery, and it gets better and better every day. And the people doing it get younger and younger. And that's fantastic because it means we're doing something right, right? The sort of teaching that you give at Gnomon is working. It's turning into this matrix brain dump where you just plug in and get exactly what you need right now. Not all
Absolutely.
the years of building up to it. Now you can have it. And kids are proving that once they've got it, they know what to do with it. They're doing these amazing things. The only thing I see that's still holding people back sometimes is doing their own thing, right? Because I still get a lot of letters from kids who've been through their training. They write and they say, I've got that job. I'm the art director of this or that, and lead character designer, and I do exactly what I love to do, and I'm paid well for it. Why do I feel like giving up?
Mm.
And I write back and go, because you trained like a Jedi and you gave all your skills to somebody else. Do it for yourself. You can still share and do things for other people, but you always, 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 you have to have something there that's plumbing your soul, or you won't know what you have to offer. And the way to do that is ridiculously easy. Sketchbooks. We talk about sketchbooks, and people use them to put their life drawings in, and they practice in and work out their roughs and compositions. Well, I want you to have a different kind of sketchbook. It's a sketchbook that every day you're going to put one page in there, and it is going to be something that moves you passionately. So passionate you'd run naked in the snow to see it, right? And it can scare the crap out of you, but hopefully you capture things that give you great joy and energy and all that stuff too. But it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, put it in the book, and it doesn't matter how you record it. You can draw it. You can write it. You can tear it out of a magazine. You can whatever you need to do, but put one in the book every day, and don't look back through the book. Just put one in. And at the end of 3 months, 6 months, look through your book, and that will be a snapshot of your soul.
Mm. That's great advice.
So there you are.
Yeah. What would you have to say? Because you mentioned Gnomon.
Mm.
I think another hurdle sometimes that we've encountered with people as we talk with people who have been prospective students that have then made the plunge to come to Gnomon
Right.
is it can be a little intimidating, right? You
Sure.
come to the school and you look around, you see the artwork that's being made by the students, and I feel like we're definitely the Jedi Temple or the Hogwarts of
Right.
digital production when it comes to those kind of things. What would you say to someone who might be on the stream today that is considering Gnomon and making sort of that leap of faith, as it were, to
Right.
pursue education?
Yeah. Um, there's always that question of how do I know if I'm good enough,
Hmm.
right? And again, there's a very quick and simple answer to that. It may not be the full answer, but if you don't think you're good enough, put your pencil down, walk away, and never draw again. And if the pain of not drawing outweighs the pain of doing it, then you're an artist and you're good enough.
Wow.
Right. So it's true. We draw because we have to draw. We don't draw because we have the skills or because we're confident that we're going to be the next hot thing. We draw because there's something in us that needs to get out. There's things we need to say. And really, when you come to Gnomon, it's good to have other people to compare yourself to, particularly if you don't measure up, because it's like fear. It's the clearest, it's like a big arrow pointing to the things that you need to learn next. And there's, Gnomon's like a giant chocolate box of all the goodies, all the stuff you could ever want. So when you know you can't do something, go grab that piece of chocolate and chew it up and learn it. And then you'll be one of those people someone looks at going, oh, wish I could do that. But remember, once you've learned it, you've only learned a language. You still have to say something with it. And the
Yeah.
something is you. So never stop. Or they have to work together, right? So always use what you learn at Gnomon and then put it to use, even from the very, very beginning.
Yeah. You were talking earlier, I think, right at the very beginning of the stream about the different kinds of tools that are out there
Yeah.
for artists.
Yeah.
I know that you're particularly known for your traditional work and your sketches and your paintings,
Sure.
but you've also directed. And what has been your experience with 3D? And because that's definitely what Noman's teaching, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
how do you see that moving forward for us in the
Well,
industry?
the irony is that I actually started as an animator. I did
Hmm.
Sesame Street cartoons. I did the letters A, E, and W. And before that, I was always so interested in flip books and making things move. When drawings move, they're amazing. You want to kill yourself before they do because there's so many drawings. But still, it's really fun. And what that does for you as an illustrator is you realize that anything you draw is just a static moment that was somewhere before and is probably going somewhere after. So all of a sudden, that drawing you're doing has a history and it has a future. And you have to show that in the drawing or it's not alive. So just that little tool, that 2D tool, taught me so much more than you can learn just making pictures. Well, think about what sculpting does for you now, right? Whether it's traditional sculpting or sculpting on a computer, the moment you take something and turn it, you're doing the drawing again, and then you turn it and there's another drawing, and it's like a million drawings that all have to fit together into one thing. And so you learn it to a depth you would never learn just drawing it, even if you did lots of orthographics of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what digital has done for us these days is it's made the point of entry a lot easier, right? You can just pick up ZBrush. You don't have to go out and buy clay. You don't have to have a studio to work in where you can make a mess, and you don't have to cast it. You don't have to lug it around. You can show people anywhere in the world and share it. You can put the rigging inside. That back when I did stop motion puppets, and I used to have to build a mechanical armature and then make sure that was there first and then sculpt around. You don't have to do any of that now. It really is. I think take just a moment and realize you live in a time of wonders and miracles. This thing we're using right now, this internet that allows you to have an audience as big as any film studio has ever had, is a gift from the gods. And just appreciate it. Appreciate what you could do with it and how you can use it, as opposed to being afraid of it or thinking it's a thing that I now need to learn. It's not. It's a thing you need to explore.
Oh, that's good.
Right? And so the same with all this gift of apps and programs and techniques and things like that. It's as if we've only had watercolor and gouache and oil paints and a few other paints up until now. And now we have thousands of those, and they're all different. And every medium gives you, just like every language, gives you something that you couldn't do in the other ones, and things that it's really good at and things it's not really good at, that will make certain kinds of stories and art and all that. So learn it all. It just expanded everything that you can tell. Yeah, so that's how I feel
so
about
true.
digital and all this stuff. And I look at the VR drawing and sculpting that's coming out, and I'm 10 again. I'm 10, and I've just discovered probably one of what might be one of my most favorite mediums ever, and I haven't even really learned it yet. But I saw what it could do, and it's like dreaming your ideas down on intangible form. I always wanted that. I always wanted the little thing where you could plug into someone's head at night and watch what they're dreaming. And this is kind of like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think if you get so caught up in just the fun of it, be a kid and enjoy the fun of it again. Learning's the best, but most of us had terrible school experiences. I didn't, because in my head I knew they were training us for a mission to Mars, and you had to learn French because they might be speaking French up there. And so, and I also liked that you could walk into a room, and if you paid attention, you could walk out smarter than you walked in. How cool is that? Right? So yeah, get back into that mindset and make it the school that you want it to be, because you can now. A lot of people love their older educational years anyway, right? Because you're more of an adult. You're treated more like an adult. I think a lot of kids are bossed around, and that's not a good way to learn.
Yeah, and I think, definitely higher education, we get the opportunity to spend the majority of our time learning the thing that we love.
Right. Absolutely.
But, and I think in a lot of ways you're calling back to the workshop that you did for Lightbox Expo last year, which I had the fortune of attending. And the thing that my big takeaway is that, Iain McCaig takes any challenge, anything that might be a deterrent, and you just hijack it with your imagination.
Totally.
And then
Absolutely.
it becomes an engine. Do you have a little bit more time to take a few questions from
No, I would love to. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we got?
Okay.
We don't have any chat questions? Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I was going to say, though, folks, if you're asking questions, the one that really doesn't mean anything, at least to me, is what is your favorite this, right? I don't have favorites. I don't have favorite children. I have two, and I adore them both. I don't have favorite wives. I've got one, and she's the best. When I draw things, when I design things, say for Star Wars, how could you have a favorite character? They're all part of the story. They're all so amazing. They all do these incredible things. And if this wasn't their time to shine on stage as the lead character, they could have. And so, no, every one of them is one of my kids, and I adore them to pieces. So don't ask me what my favorite things are, but a lot of the times people are afraid to ask the questions they really want to ask. Sometimes they're life questions. They're nothing to do with art. Sometimes they're, because what it does is a good question reveals your vulnerability. But I will honestly answer anything you ask right now, anything you really want to know.
Okay. So you've heard that, guys. You've been given an amazing opportunity, and I've been keeping one eye on the chat actually during the whole time, and I'm seeing the questions start to come in. So I think what's happened is people have been captivated by your storytelling and not able to do anything else, and now suddenly they've been given license by Iain McCaig to ask him anything.
Anything at all. Yeah. Truly.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Oh, okay. Right, so Iain, what are your thoughts on the new Star Wars trilogy, right? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Adam, you can ask the questions, and
sure.
then I'll.
You got it. My colleague Ray is speaking into one ear. You can't hear him, but he's giving me some of the questions that are coming from the chat. So the first that's come up is, what are your thoughts on the trilogy? And We're assuming that might mean the newer trilogy that's just coming
Right.
out.
um, Gosh, what are my thoughts on it? I worked on the first one, and as with Phantom Menace, we did so much design that things have still showed up. Things that I designed showed up in the next two. Um, I was asked when we first started. George wasn't a part of that process, which was bizarre, right? That George Lucas, the man who makes Star Wars, and every word he says is Star Wars, wasn't there to ask, because I think they wanted to prove they could do it on their own, and find their own voices and stuff too. If you're always asking, you're never going to really plunder who you are, and that's what they were trying to do. But there was a lot of trying to figure it out, and at one point, the production designer Rick Carter came in. And he said, "Okay, this week, I want you to draw the Star Wars image you've always wanted to see." And that's tough for me because I actually wasn't a Star Wars fan when I was a kid. I saw it in art school, and I was in Britain, and I was into things like, Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune books. There wasn't a film for that either. So I was into really kind of a heavier science fiction fantasy mode, and also stories that had nothing to do with science fiction fantasy. So Star Wars came out, and for me, it was kind of a space opera. It was light entertainment. It was a light version of what I really loved. I've grown to love it very, very much, mostly because of going around the world and seeing how much it's touched everybody, and then getting to be part of it. So at any rate, the thing that really stuck in my mind was Carrie Fisher's bright red lipstick, because I was that age where that meant something, and beautiful women stuck with me from then too. And then after that, it was the last part of the film where Luke is flying down the trenches of the Death Star. Mm. And as I say, I'm that weird kid that loved school, right? Really loved school. And one of the goofy things I loved about it was in high school, I could run down the hall, because I was the phantom of the school. I was there day and night. I could run down the hall when there wasn't anyone else there, and those lights would go flashing by over your head, and the corridors are narrow, and that was exactly like going down the corridor of the Death Star. So I thought, well, how cool would it be if this young girl, this Rey that we kept drawing, right? It's because we're so happy that there's going to be a female protagonist for a change, female hero, and I said, what if she's a free diver, right? She's free diving deep under this ocean in this desert planet she lives in to collect the eggs of these space turtles, because that's how she makes a living, that and collecting junk. And she's totally oblivious of the fact that she's diving down the trenches of the Death Star, the remnants of the Death Star, which is submerged under the water. So I remember I did that painting, and J.J. Abrams, eventually, when he came aboard, he saw that, and he went, "Wow, this is Star Wars." And it never ended up in the film. And so, I forgot all about it until the last one. And all of a sudden, there's the wreckage of a Death Star underwater. And it's like, yes. So what I think about the new trilogy is that it's people trying to find their voices in an archetype and try to make it their own. And I'm watching each story is trying to get more and more courageous and more stepping out there. I think The Mandalorian's a really, really good example of pushing in a direction that someone else wants to go. I'm not sure if George would have written that one, but Dave Filoni sure would, and Jon Favreau was happy to go there. So, and same with the Clone Wars. Dave sat down and really, really learned from George what made a Star Wars story Star Wars. And I think the Clone Wars stories are amazing, especially these, this new season that's just out. It just blew me away. Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful for it, and I'm cheering people on. But I'm still waiting to see, and I'm especially waiting to see what they're going to do beyond the Skywalker saga and where they might go.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to hear your thought on. I don't think that George intended us to give a story that we would put in a gilded box and expect to behave perfectly. I think his invitation was really for all of us to become storytellers, right?
Totally, yeah. And your stories, right? He's told his. So, it's funny when you're designing for somebody. The worst thing you can do is try to guess what's in someone else's head. Never guess what's in the director's head or the writer's head. Do it as an actor. Take what's there, take the story that's there, honor the story, but bring yourself to it, bring your own performance to it based on what you think that character needs to be. And then it's the director's job to give you an adjustment and say, that was really good, we might use that, but what if it was quieter and internalized? What if it was bigger? And you see what your range is then, trying out those different things, but it still has to be you. And so, I'm excited to see, as people get more and more adventurous, what Star Wars becomes for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Ray, do we have some more questions we can cover with you? I'm looking at it. All right. So one question that's come in is it true that if you draw every day, you don't improve, but if you analyze your work, you can find errors in it and try to improve in it instead of drawing the mistake, instead of learning from your errors? In other words, I think the idea is like repetitions of the same mistake, just arbitrarily drawing, as opposed to drawing and analyzing your work. What are your thoughts on that?
What you did in the question, which was, and nothing wrong with the way you asked your question, but you gave me two choices, and the answer is that one. So it's neither of those, right? The answer is, if you draw the same thing over and over and over and over again, and you don't learn from it, you don't have...
Oh, sorry. You keep going. Ian's Ray's just trying to communicate something to me.
Got it. If you don't try a different approach to the same thing, not by analyzing, just by trying a different approach. So let's say, for example, you want to draw me, right? You want to nail my face, get my likeness, and you've got this, and you take a screenshot of it, and when we're done this, you draw exactly that, and then you draw exactly that, and then you draw exactly that. Well, it would have helped if you took another screenshot there, and you can actually see the size of my nose. You can't tell so well from here, right? And then you can see, oh, he's got the Frankenstein forehead, and you suddenly can start to piece a figure together because you're not analyzing it, you're understanding it, you're grokking it, right? And for that, the more you draw, the better you get, because every drawing adds to your understanding and takes away from you thinking too hard about it. Pretty soon, after maybe 100 drawings of me and different expressions and things and all that, you won't need to look at a picture of me. You'll know me. You'll know how to draw it. And that's when it really works, is you can put that aside, and then you are putting me on and you are performing me. I was going to say that's kind of what happened with Padmé, right? So I'm not a woman, and yet here I am trying to put life and personality and uniqueness inside this female character. And apparently I did it successfully, because George told me he would only marry the girl I drew. He sort of fell in love with her. And late one night, while I'm drawing another Padmé, it's very late, it's like 11:30. George is always gone long before then, but no. Oh, and there's a secret staircase, right? And if you hear footsteps there, only George comes up the secret staircase. And then there's footsteps. But I'm so deep in my drawing, it just barely registers until I hear a door opens. And I glance outside of my eye, and it's George. And he's come up just to walk around the empty art department, look at things. And so I keep drawing away, drawing my Padmé. And next thing I know, he's standing right beside me. And he's been standing there for God knows how long. And he reaches over and he rips the drawing off my board and waves it in my face. And he goes, "The thing is, Iain, who is she? Who is she?" And so when you're deep in that drawing mode, you answer very honestly. And I just said, "Well, she's me, George." And I saw this look of horror across his face. And I went, "They're all me, George. Darth Maul and Padmé, Amidala." As he fled from the room, he said, "You need help." But the truth is, you draw from the inside out. And inside, it doesn't really matter what sex you are. It matters what character you are, what part of your personality you're emphasizing and portraying and so on. So yeah, they're all you, all the characters are.
All right.
So I'm sorry. Does that answer the question
I
at
think
all?
it
Because
does. I think it's a
yeah, you
bonus as
just don't
well.
be afraid, draw it from the inside, get to know it so well that you can perform it so that it then has that. They always say that when you're creating a character, you're and making one up, you're sort of Frankensteining things together. You're putting pieces of people you know, faces you like, all that stuff.
All right. And then, Ray, is there another question you'd like to draw my attention to? Oh, okay. Yeah. Right here in Lightstream, right?
Oh, I've got
Okay,
it on the
great.
side. Hang on.
Oh, got it.
Let's
Okay.
see.
All right. So Ray's just made it possible for both Ian and I to see the questions coming in. So we're taking a look at
There's
those
a good one
guys.
here on acting and acting as an artist. Can you elaborate more on acting and acting as an artist? Well, I think I kind of just did, but acting's like animating. Acting is like sculpting. It's one more of those amazing skills that will show you something you don't know when you just draw pictures necessarily, right? And I encourage everybody, especially if you want to be a director, go and act. Go and know what it's like to be in front of a camera and tell a story as a certain kind of character. Learn what your range is so that you know what kind of characters you can authentically portray. Not everybody has this massive range. Not everybody's a great character actor, right? Maybe you only have one great character, but hey, worked for someone like Clint Eastwood. He's got a range within that, though. And actually, when you look at that kind of silent, stoic, but super strong character, there are hundreds of those, and he's explored that for a lot of his career, right? He's got a good sense of humor too, and he's explored that as well. So you'll find your range, you'll find your things that you're really strong at. By the way, if there's something you really, really want to draw that you're not strong at, you can actually learn it, and you can learn your way of doing that thing, right? So everything is possible. Everything is possible for you to do as an artist. It's just whether you want to spend the time to learn it and the frustration of not succeeding for quite a while. But yeah, it's all possible. There's an old saying that we do my old saying that we do 5 impossible things before breakfast. It's actually only 3 impossible things, and usually one of them's getting up. But yeah, that's this job. You face a blank sheet of paper, and there's nothing on it, and you need to brush the paper away and show people what is. And that's your first impossible thing of any day. When you were saying about drawing and drawing and drawing, I have these pads of paper. They're not that thick. This one's about halfway through. And my first thing every morning is to sit down with a pen and fill it. I do every single piece of paper until there's cardboard left, and then I'm warmed up. So yeah, drawing is the way to do it. Right. Any other questions over there?
Yeah, we've got a couple more in the chat here. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, gotcha. Okay, sorry. Ray's just directing me to
Okay.
chat. How do I open that up, Ray?
That's right. While you guys are figuring that out, I will answer this one. The Phantom Menace and The Force Awakens was the freedom of a new, unknown story, scary or liberating. Well, I don't get scared, but it was thrilling. That's the right word. Scary and liberating. If you put those two together, that's thrilling. And so for me, it was thrilling. That's like asking if you get on an amazing theme park ride, is it scary or liberating? Yes, that's the answer. So let me see what else we got here. How do you get back to your love of art if everything in your life is pushing you down? Do you just walk away until things improve? Is it ever too late? If you think of art as a language, exactly the same as speaking, right? That language, then it's not something to walk away from. If something is troubling you, exciting you, whatever, share it. Share it. Usually we find our friends and we tell them what happened, tell them what we're going through. If it's pushing you down, you tell a buddy, and the person will help either cheer you on or commiserate with you because they're feeling pushed down too. So there's a lot of that now. I mean, we're in a pandemic. Pandemics are cataclysmic events, and they're a lot of people are quarantined and not used to being spending a lot of time alone. I think in some ways I've been quarantined most of my career because I'm in a studio and I'm in my world, in my head. But that's not a lonely place, right? In my world, I have to be all those characters in a galaxy far, far away. I have to listen to all these voices and then translate them down onto paper so people can read them. That was why Skywalker Ranch was so fun for me, because it's a million miles away from anything. It's really out in the countryside. There's nothing there. There's no stores, there's no shops, there's no restaurants. And people used to ask, do you not get lonely up there? It's like, what? No. I stagger out of a space war or a fight between Jedis and Siths, and all I want to see is the deer munching the grass and the silence, and walk over to Lake Ewok and watch the catfish. So, but when things get you down, embrace it, right? Because it's an opportunity for you to see what would be invisible to you otherwise. Because we're always distracted by the life that we know, and actors will do this too. By the way, if you do some acting, you'll learn that the death of acting and the death of a good piece of art is to fall back into your comfort zone, right? If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten, is the saying. So if something is making you feel down or fearful, all it's really saying to you is you're out of your comfort zone. And another way to say that is you're in a brand new unexplored land. So explore, right? Go see what's out there. And like I say, you'll find a lot more of you in that place than you thought existed too.
Ian, I think you just answered two questions in one.
Oh.
The next question that came through that I was asked to answer was, how are you dealing with the quarantine and how is that affecting your process? And I think definitely you addressed that as well. Another question.
Yeah. There's no change to me whatsoever, except that it's even more important right now to, it's always been important to stay fit. Always, 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 right? Your body's your machine. That's your tools, and you take care of your tools. And so you have less access to things. But because of the time it took to go to a gym, that was the time I had to exercise. I stopped going to gyms quite a while ago. Fortunately, my dad was a bodybuilder, like a real body. He worked out in Muscle Beach with Steve Reeves, the guy who played Hercules and stuff. And so I was always used to seeing somebody like fall down to the ground and doing their 30 push-ups, or grabbing onto the door jambs and doing their chins and all that kind of stuff. So the idea of working out in the home and making your house into a gym, taking 2 chairs and doing your dips on the chairs and stuff, that's been my whole life. So it didn't feel so weird to be working out at home. The nice thing is that my son also works out regularly. So does my wife. I used to do gymnastics. I was really good on the rings back when I was a lot more flexible. And for my birthday this year, he bought me some rings. So what I do is I go into the garage, I grab the gymnastic rings and try to remember how to do the spiral and the legs in the air and all that stuff.
That's great. We've got another question that maybe you can expand a little bit on your process in this. It says, hi, Ian, what's your advice for writing a good villain, especially when they're so opposite to your protagonist, and what you would do and believe?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. And that's connected to the question, how do you write a story? Right? Because to write a great villain, you have to know how to write a great hero. To write a great hero, you have to know how to write a good story that the hero can inhabit. And the hero is measured against your villain, always. So you've got to make magnificent villains if you want your hero to be really heroic. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing is to realize that they're not much different from your heroes at all. Villains are just heroes who are flawed, right? They take pleasure in pain. I mean, both heroes and villains can kill something, right? That's just part of the hero's journey. The villain laughs as he's killing something, and then might grind his heel into the dying thing to make sure it suffers. That's the only difference. Villains tend to be a lot more interesting than heroes, because when people are writing heroes, they walk a line, right? You're always worried you're going to lose your audience's sympathy. And so they can't do this and they can't do that. And when they can't do a bunch of stuff, they get really boring. Whereas your villain can do anything. So villains are a lot easier to write. And what I recommend to a lot of people that I teach storytelling to is just write it the way you write it, and then swap your hero and your villain's characteristics. Give everything that you gave to your villain, give that to your hero. And boy, do your heroes get interesting then. You know, it's funny, in Alien, I had heard, I don't know if it's true, but I had heard that Ripley was a man. And when it came to the casting, Mr. Scott cast Sigourney Weaver and didn't change the dialogue and didn't change the character at all. And yeah, it's fascinating, right?
Yes.
You get sides of things, because again, we have these perceptions and we build little walls around ourselves about what something has to be, right? So back to like writing a great villain. So to do that, you write a great story. There are many forms of writing stories. There's many structures for writing stories. Gnomon will teach that. I teach that. And I think it's important for you to learn as artists. Very, very important, because everything we do is in service of a story. But in essence, a story has to be a certain genre, right? And you have to know it. If you're watching people kiss forever and then you're supposed to be watching a horror film, you get kind of worried you're in the wrong theater until the shark comes and eats one of them. Then you're okay. So you got to know what genre it is. You got to know who it's about, so you can know who to cheer on, and you got to know what they want. Because if they don't want anything, what's the point of watching the movie? And they don't just have to want it; they have to want it with their heart and soul. You know, genie pops out of a bottle. It's the first thing they ask for. So for some reason, they haven't got it. And those things are called obstacles. So you got to know the obstacles. What is it that's stopping them? Why don't they go to the corner store and get it? And, you know, it's because it's a million miles from here, and because it's you don't have a spaceship to get there, and because, you know, all this stuff. And then one of those things has to be inside you, because you're always your own worst enemy. And there's something inside Luke that's holding him back, right? So once you have those established, to start your story, you just need to know, what is the goofy plan that this hero is going to come up with this time to overcome the obstacles, no matter what? And that's what the story is. Act 2 is all about the goofy plan in action, right? So now think about your villain. Just because they're a villain doesn't mean they don't have all that. That could be their story. Everybody is the hero of their own story. So just put your villain through the same thing. Right? You know what genre it is, but what does your villain want more than anything in the world? Why can't your villain get it? And, you know, what is that internal one that's really holding your villain back? And what is the villain going to do to get it anyway? And then all you have to do is aim the villain at the hero, so that they're going to collide. What they both want is going to collide at some point, and they can't both have it. It's really simple. Mm-hmm. The zombies want to eat you. You want to stay alive. One of you's not going to be happy at the end of this movie.
Very good.
So that's it. That's all it is. Yep.
We've got another question here. They're asking, how important do you think it is to keep drawing and practicing with the pencil when you work on the computer most of your time in 3D animation or visual effects? So kind of the balance there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very good question. You will only work most of your time on the computer if you choose to. Even if your job dictates it, there's nothing to stop you from having, like I do, you know, paper or a pen by your side. This is my digital station, but I have paper all over the place and pencils and stuff. When I need to think something out, sometimes it's faster on a piece of paper, or sometimes the contact with the piece of paper and doing it physically is a nice change from just the screen. Remember, you never want to get complacent and there's only one way of working. Always jazz it up. I stand, right, most of the time. But I have a chair over there just in case I want to try sitting, because that feels different when I draw sitting down. So, do it all, right? Don't be afraid to draw with a pencil. And is it important? It's important if you want to be able to have a good wide vocabulary as a storyteller. If you only use one medium, you will only master one medium. So the more you learn, the more you learn in mediums that allow other forms of expression, the more you can bring back to your other first medium, and the more you will have as a storyteller in what you can tell. So for me, vitally important. I've got to keep doing both and keep learning all the new stuff because it's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I want it all. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
I'll be good at it all, but I want it all.
Yeah. So we're gonna sort of wrap the questions and get ready to transition. But I think in just sort of summing up, Ian, if there were one thing that you could sort of reach through the computer screen and hold our artists by the shoulders and convey to them, whether that's Obi-Wan Kenobi wisdom, whether it's encouragement, what's something that you would love to be able to say to aspiring artists today?
Wow. Um, the first thing to do is to realize that you have those mutant powers, right? That drawing is not a magic trick, and telling stories is not a magic trick, and you already have them. And every night you go to bed and dream stories. And usually in those stories, there's people beautifully formed, wonderfully drawn with anatomy and perspective and lighting and animation. And there's some pretty good dialogue. And you didn't have to work at that. You already know how to do it. Really, a lot of what you're going to learn is how to do it while you're awake. But you're hardwired to be able to draw, to paint, to tell stories, to do all these kind of things. That's what human beings do. And I think one thing to keep in mind as you do that is to remember the importance of it. It's not to be cool. It's not there to win awards. It's not there to even make sure that they do a toy line from it so you can have the models on your shelf. The reason we tell stories is that people define their lives by them. You define your life by it. And so what you do is really important. Choose the stuff that adds to the world, that leaves the room better than you found it, that actually is courageous and daring. And if you focus on that, you'll find that your fear goes away, right? Because you're both an explorer and you're also talking about something you know, which is you. So that's it. Go make great stories and great
Yeah.
pictures and
Thank
embrace
you.
it all.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Well, in just a few minutes, I'm going to be sharing with our viewers our info session about Gnomon. I think we've already had
Fantastic.
an amazing info session already together with you, Ian. But in terms of speaking about Gnomon, I believe that at least one of your children went to the school or took some classes in the school?
Both of my
Both
children
did.
went to the school.
Okay.
Absolutely. My son learned animation there. He won an award from George Lucas, and he hasn't pursued animation as a career, which is great. That's what I'm trying to tell people about drawing and storytelling too. You don't have to make a career at it. Do it because it's a language and you never know what's going to come up in your life. So he got into Dungeons and Dragons very recently and did his first DM thing, and suddenly
Wow.
he's building models, and then there's a lockdown, so he can't share those models. And now he's back on Blender, and now he's learned Blender, and it's like everything he did in Gnome is all coming back. And you never know what's going to happen in your life. The only thing you do know is nothing is wasted. Anything you learn, you will use if you're an artist. That's just what we do. Yeah. But yeah, they enjoyed it. It was fantastic. She was there, and I'm sure she'll be back to actually speak and talk and give some classes and stuff too. She's a heck of an art director and storyboard artist, and she loves to share. She loves to teach.
Yeah, and just kind of prepping to talk about that. What are some things that you feel? I mean, I know you've already touched on this a little bit, but what do you feel is, because there's a lot of great art schools out there,
Sure.
and I think each one of them has unique qualities.
They
But
do.
what do you think? What do you feel makes Gnomon unique as an option for education?
Yeah. What I love about Gnomon is it's like I say, it's like the matrix brain dump for professionals, right? Who have so little time, and it has to really count. If you're going to stop and learn something, that time has to be effective. So very often we need the tool now. I need to know ZBrush yesterday. And so I can cherry pick. I can come to Gnomon and I can learn exactly that skill, go back and use it. And then the next time I need something else, come back and learn that. Or if I want to take it further, come back and do that. If I was coming to Gnomon as a student now, I would try and go through one of the entire courses, probably the degree course, right? Not not necessarily because I think a degree is important in itself. No one has ever asked me if I have a degree or anything like that in my working life. It was the discipline that getting a degree gave me that let me run my own design studio, that let me, direct a film and produce a film and know how to do that. You learn structure, you learn collaboration, you learn how to work, with so many other creative bits of input and stuff like that, other than your own, and still be who you are. Right? That's super, super invaluable. You guys are on the cutting edge of all the new tools, everything that's coming out there, because you have to. That's otherwise there wouldn't be a matrix brain dump. And so, what I love about Gnomon is I can come there and learn the newest thing that I need to learn. Right? That's actually where I heard about the VR drawing stuff
Wow,
was from
yes.
Josh. Yeah, it's amazing. So that's what I would say about Gnomon. And then in addition to that, you've had some pretty amazing teachers and recorded those, and even just for the Gnomon library. Um, can you imagine if we had that for the golden age of illustrators?
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine if and even before, can you imagine if Michelangelo had done one of your Gnomon DVDs? It wouldn't really, it wouldn't just be great because of his art. It would be great because what a historical document to see all these, that creators do come in all sizes and shapes. And, some of them are afraid all the time. Some people never feel good enough. Some people are arrogant and think they're good all the time. There's all kinds of stuff. And hopefully by seeing that, you're not afraid to be who you are, right? You can embrace that. You don't have to be someone else because you're only ever going to be as good as they are, right? As not what they can be, because you don't know what that is yet. But you can be you and beyond because nobody can see inside your heart and soul.
Yes. Yeah. And Ian, I think that's what you've done for us today. Is
Oh, well, thank you.
getting to have not just to see your work, to see the work of a master such as yourself, but for you to give this generous amount of time that you've given us. We've been together for nearly a full feature-length film. It's the amount of time we spent today, and it feels like it's just been 10 minutes.
Wow.
But thank you so
Wow.
much for being willing not just to share your art, but to share yourself, to share your struggles, your accomplishments, how you've gotten around those struggles, because we're all learning from it. And you've been so generous to kind of let us stand on your shoulders, as it were, and make our mark and make our aspirations. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And anytime, anytime.
Thank you.
I think just to leave you with one last little
Mm-hmm.
thing, I really truly believe that creativity is a thing, right? It's like this big, beautiful, bright light. And life is like that too. But we're all these little mirrors around the campfire, and we only reflect the little piece of the light that we see. It's by being with the other artists, by a community, by a school, that you see the other mirrors and you start to really understand what that thing is that we're all beholden to and what it is we're trying to channel, right? And that's got to be good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
Well, thank you so much, Ian. This has
all
been a
right, man.
gift. We really
Take
appreciate your time
care.
today. Yes, and you as well.
My
Be well.
my pleasure.
All right.
Bye bye.
Okay, guys. So, wow, that was our time with Ian. That was fantastic. I know that I was encouraged and learned a lot. And speaking of learning, we want to begin sharing with those of you who are interested about what Gnomon is and how we're training artists for careers in digital production and what our different educational offerings are. So, with that, we're going to get into our presentation. And Ray, are we getting ready to go live with that? Okay, great. So I'm just going to start it up on my end here. And just a moment here. Just going to do something with my displays. Good. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, guys, Gnomon is essentially, we're an art school. We do specialize in 3D art, and we're located in Hollywood, and we are training artists for careers in visual effects, games, and animation. We've been around since 1997. We were founded by Alex Alvarez, who is also a creature artist. He's worked on some amazing films himself, including Star Wars or Star Trek, Prometheus, Super 8, just to name a few. And over the years, as we started in 97 for a place for industry artists to train and to learn this sort of this new skill set of creating 3D CG for film, We've grown into a full-blown college, and we've won some amazing awards. So some of the awards that you're going to be seeing on your screen represent us winning School of the Year internationally a couple of times. We have ranked #1 in the US for VFX, games, and animation, which is pretty much our entire curriculum. And we ranked #1 worldwide for VFX and animation. So that's just to give you an idea that we've been around for over 20 years, and we're really good at what we do. And because of that, our graduates have gone on to work on some amazing projects. So what's going to be coming up on the screen now is these are posters of projects that Gnomon alumni have contributed to. So this just represents some of the amazing projects out there that our graduates have worked on. And next up are some of the studios out there that you may be familiar with who are hiring Gnomon graduates. We have alumni working in each of these studios. And next up, we are going to show you just a short video clip of 3 different industry artists that we interviewed who are all graduates of Gnomon. And they're going to share a little bit about what it was like to be in our program.
Someone recommended me checking out Gnomon. I didn't know actually anything about it. I first found the tutorials, and so I applied. I got in, and it was the best decision of my life. I'm Kirsten England, and I'm a technical visual effects artist at Naughty Dog. I originally was a part of their foreground department in 2015. I was still in school.
I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up in a pretty small town there called Milan. Yeah, we came out here and visited the school and got a tour. Just walking through like the sculpture lab here and everything, and yeah, it was just amazing. And I was like, wow, I really got to go here. My name is Tyler Bulliard. I'm currently a look development artist at Walt Disney Animation Studios. I started there in the talent development program as a trainee on Zootopia, actually, and then I've worked on every film since then.
It's funny to think that like 10 years ago, I was working at Target and paying my way through Gnomon. And all right, my name's Jay Machado. I'm a senior hard surface modeler at Industrial Light and Magic, and I've been there for about 5 years. Worked on a few things there, Transformers 4, Episode 7, Rogue One.
Everyone I graduated with within, a month or two was working somewhere in the industry.
All right, so what did these guys learn while they were with us? In a term, sort of a catch-all phrase, what they learned was called digital production. Now, digital production is going to include the following skill sets and disciplines. These are going to be things like computer-based visual effects, character and creature design, digital sculpting, character and creature animation, environment design, lighting and rendering, matte painting and compositing, game asset creation, game engines, production workflows, and world building. Now, you might be familiar with all these terms, you might only be familiar with some of them, but all of these translate into the following careers. So each one of the positions you're seeing named up here on the screen represent a different step in the digital production pipeline. And all of these are careers unto themselves that have a range of skill sets, have a range of types of artists that tend to lean towards these different positions. So I'm just going to highlight a few of these for us today. And we're going to look first at character artists. Now, a character artist does exactly what the name implies. They're responsible for creating that 3D image, that final 3D model that's going to be appearing on screen in a game or in a film of a character creature. This artist in the presentation here is using a piece of software called ZBrush. And ZBrush essentially allows you to use traditional sculpting techniques with digital 3D clay. So it makes it perfect for creating anything organic in shape, whether that's a human character, a creature, an alien, even organic shapes down in nature, like trees, rocks, and so forth. So this is a great example of a position in the digital production pipeline that is, these are artists that also are probably spending a lot of time drawing these characters and creatures. They have some understanding of sculpture, a little bit more of the traditional artist that has transitioned into designing and sculpting in 3D. So next up are effects artists. Now, effects artists basically get to do this. They blow up stuff on their computers all day long. So like what we're looking at here, these are incredibly complex sequences with millions of moving pieces and parts. And so while you couldn't go in and animate this traditionally like a character by moving individual pieces around, these artists are using specialized software that have real world physics engines encoded into them. So what they're doing is they're using the software to create simulations of things like water, fire, energy beams, gravity, you name it. So, these are the guys that are figuring out if you have a space station of a certain mass and velocity that starts to explode and break apart while orbiting a planet, what is that going to look like? And they're creating all the simulations to make that possible. They're even using a bit of computer science. They're using some knowledge of, say, Mel scripting or Python to get into the software at a granular level to really get it to do exactly what they want to do. So this is a great example of a position where artists are creating amazing, visually stunning sequences. But these are artists who are a little bit more technically leaning in their skill sets. Next up, we're going to talk about compositors. Now, compositors are the artists that are, more towards the end of the digital production pipeline, and they're the ones that receive all of the different digital assets and they weave them together into a final scene, like the scenes that we're going to be seeing on the screen right now. They're the person that makes it believable, that takes digital things, mixes it together with green screen footage of actors, animation, digital models, so forth, and they put it all together and they pull off the magic trick, essentially, of causing the audience to believe that it's 100% real, that it's an actual location that the scene was shot on. A lot of times, these artists are working on shots that we use for establishing locations in film. This is the director's way of basically telling the audience this is where the story is taking place, and typically that's going to be a wide shot of a location with the people who are in our story in that scene. Now, instead of the director for those kind of scenes that are only on screen for a few seconds at a time, instead of the director having to go out and scout out the right real-world location to get permits and insurance to film there, hire actors and film crew, instead they can save a lot of time and money, and they go to a VFX studio, and they say, these are the shots, these are the establishing shots we need for our film. And the artists in that studio go to work making all the different pieces, whether that is 3D models, animation, video, images that are going to be inserted. And then the compositor is that person almost at the end of the production pipeline who receives all those assets and weaves it all together. There's a lot of visual storytelling going on. There's a lot of being able to see the big picture of the situation, and that idea of making it look totally real. So it's a great position in the pipeline for people that find that enjoyable, find that fun and adventurous. All right. Now we're going to look at pre-viz artists, or pre-visualization artists, as they're called in the industry. These are artists that are essentially making moving storyboards for a film or for a sequence in a film. Traditionally, storyboards have been drawn, and these are still 2D images that kind of map out sequentially, like a comic book almost, sort of the beats of a scene and how the camera needs to move and what the actors are doing. Nowadays, artists can do this and create animation to tell the story and to show us how the camera is going to move, where the actors are going to be, and tell the story visually, so that when the rest of the production moves forward, they're all working from the same template that's sort of come from the director's brain. So these artists are actually using game engines. This is the same software technology that allows our consoles at home to render games and animation in real time, 60 frames per second. So it's a very flexible tool for artists to go in and create simplified models, simplified animation, control the camera movement on the fly, how the scene is, the perspective of the scene is going to be, even the type of lens being used in the camera. And because of that flexibility, they get to work very closely with the director and the cinematographer to get that vision out. So this is a great job for an artist who is interested in animation and 3D models, but at their heart, they're really a storyteller, and they're always kind of thinking of that big picture and how to tell the story visually. And they get really excited about working with the director and the cinematographer to get that vision out. All right, so with just a few of these careers in mind, let's talk about how Gnomon is preparing artists for these pathways. Let's talk about our academic offerings at Gnomon. So the next screen, you're going to see 4 academic offerings as sort of a bird's eye perspective of what we're offering at our school. So in the upper left corner, you'll see we have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in digital production. This is actually the course that Iain McCaig was talking about earlier on the stream. That if he could go back to school today, this is probably the course that he would enter into. And what this is that full comprehensive training in the digital production pipeline while giving you a college degree at the same time. Just to the right of it on the top row is our certificate program. This is going to be a shorter program. It's 2 years, but it's also more intense. This is designed for people who may already have a degree and want to come to Gnomon as a finishing school to really become industry ready. It's going to be, kind of like 2 years of intense Navy SEALs training in digital production. Now, on the lower left-hand corner, you'll see we have a foundation in art design. This is basically a portfolio building course. And lastly, on just to the right of that, we also have many, many individual courses to choose from. Well over 70 of our classes are offered individually on our campus. I should mention as well that right now, because of our current health situation, Gnomon has already transitioned. We have already completely transitioned our entire spring term to an online learning format. So we have students today, right now, as the spring term began, using an online platform where they're able to interact with each other as well as with their instructor. They're able to have live paintovers and critiques to discuss the work, and the instructor is able to share their work and their screen. So this is something that we've actually already been doing as a school, even before social distancing happened. So I want to let you know that, even right now, if you're considering an individual course for the next term, the summer term, or considering any of our programs, don't let our current situation limit you in your thinking. We already are able to do this, and you should definitely look into that and pursue that. So let's take a closer look at just some of these. So first up, we have our Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. This is a fully accredited 4-year program with an optional concentration in game art. So as you get into this program, you're going to be learning, digital production techniques that are going to be useful in film, or you can specifically choose that you want to work in games. And what that'll do is it'll take some of your animation, modeling, VFX classes, and so forth, and it's going to fine tune those towards doing those disciplines specifically within game engines. This is so that you can go out, start working in a game studio in these areas, and be able to make that transition very, very quickly into that world. So this 4-year degree is going to cover all the aspects of what we call a 3D generalist skill set. It's going to provide an in-depth understanding of the 3D production pipeline, visual arts, and general education studies. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to teach you the entire digital production pipeline. So all of those different positions that I put up on the screen earlier in the presentation, you're going to be learning how to do each one of those. Why is this important? Well, Gnomon has been working very closely with the industry since we started. And we know that what studios are looking for, especially for artists that are first breaking into the industry, they're looking for artists that can do more than one thing. It makes them useful in more than one area. For you looking to break into the industry, it also opens up that many more doors as far as the first position that you can take in a studio. So this is the best way to go about it. It's the way most artists in the industry break in today. And as you get in and start building up your credits and your knowledge of the pipeline and those kind of things in studio, you can then work your way laterally towards the position that you might want to occupy more long term in your career. Now, the full-time programs at Gnomon have what we call a rolling admission. So that means that you can start in the spring, the summer, the fall, or the winter. Our graduates are graduating those 4 times out of the year as well. Most of our students even choose to stay on for the summer term, which allows them to finish in just 3 years. So they don't take a summer break. They stay on for the summer term. They're able to finish up that 4-year education in just 3 years. And I should mention that with accreditation for this program also comes the opportunity for financial aid. So we have a financial aid department that is actively and continually researching all of the different types of aid that you can apply for as a student to help you pay for your education. You can get more information about that from admissions. So moving forward, let's take a look at our 2-year certificate program. This, as I mentioned, is a shorter program, and it's a more intensive program. What this is, it's also accredited, it's full-time on our campus, but it's designed to provide you with a foundational set of 3D skills before you then choose an area of emphasized study for the rest of the program. And those 5 areas that you can pick from are going to be being a 3D generalist, so doing a little bit of everything, or that could be particularly in games, or modeling and texturing, could be VFX animation, or creature and character animation. So as I mentioned, this is different than our degree program in that the majority of the people who go to this program already have some experience, or they already have a college degree, say from another art school, and they want to come to a very specific 3D education that is going to, in just 2 years, kind of become that finishing school that then helps them launch out into the industry. Next up, we have Foundation in Art Design. And I mentioned this is the one that is essentially a portfolio building course. So this is for artists who really want to pursue what we are teaching at Gnomon, but maybe they don't have a portfolio put together yet. Maybe they haven't had an opportunity to learn some of those very foundational art skills that are going to be necessary to build on as you pursue further training. So this is a course that lasts for up to 1 year. You don't have to stay in it for the entire year. You can be in for 1, 2, 3, or the full 4 terms. But it's going to get you into classes like figure drawing, anatomy for artists, how to draw in perspective, color and light theory, and you're going to get in some great design classes like character design, creature design, vehicle and mech design. So this is, in a lot of ways, is a really great bridge for a lot of high school students into, say, our Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, because when you're finishing high school, you may not have had the opportunity to learn all the things that you might need to know. So if you finish the foundation with a GPA of 3.0 or higher, you automatically get a $500 scholarship towards our BFA program. And over half the classes that are taught in the foundation also transfer into the BFA. So if the foundation is something that you're wanting to do to prepare for something like the Bachelor's of Fine Arts program at Gnomon, it's not that you're just sort of delaying your beginnings into your education to prepare, but you're actually kind of kickstarting that and already starting to take some of the steps and investing in that future. So this is a great option for anyone who may need to do that. And lastly, as I mentioned, well over 70 of our courses or our classes are offered as individual courses. And so what this is going to be, each class is essentially meets for 3 hours each week over the course of 10 weeks. So that's an accumulative 30 hours of class time with, of course, assignments and homework and those kind of things in between. And currently for our spring term, and we'll see about our summer term, but our individual classes are also being offered online in order to empower people that might need to be at home but want to take an individual course at Gnomon. When we're not in social distancing and we're back on campus, some of our individual classes are also available online, both for California residents as well as international students. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about the admissions process at Gnomon. Admissions at Gnomon is a bit different than a lot of other art schools out there. In most art schools, the process is you kind of pull your portfolio together, you fill out the application, you just send all of that into admissions, and you kind of stand back and cross your fingers and hope that you get in. The way that we do it at Gnomon is different. We actually say that the very first step before you apply, before you send in your portfolio, is to reach out and have the opportunity to speak with one of our admissions advisors. And I should mention, guys, just in case you didn't hear in the beginning, we do have my colleagues Ray, who's also working recruiting with me, as well as Xander from our admissions team. You can see his photo right up here on the screen. These two guys are in the chat right now, so you don't have to wait to the end of this presentation to type your question in. These guys are here and they're ready to answer any questions that you've got. Our admissions team at Gnomon are essentially, their whole role is to be a lifeline to you. That first conversation that we want you to be able to have is an opportunity for them to hear about your goals, kind of the direction you want to go in, the type of career you're hoping to have through the education at Gnomon. And they're also going to ask to see some of your artwork and look through your portfolio. And their job is to answer questions and to help you with your goals, to help you make your plans. So before you ever apply, these guys want to kind of be that first step to help fine-tune things and get you pointed in the right direction. They're also going to offer you free portfolio coaching. This is free portfolio coaching before you ever make a commitment to come to Gnomon. They just want to make sure that you've got the opportunity to get a professional critique on your work. They will point out areas that may need improvement and actually point you towards resources online where you can learn and develop those skills. And, for some of the students that are really motivated and are willing to follow that direction and actually take the initiative to reach back out to admissions and show them their work, I've known some of these advisors to go back and forth for months, sometimes nearly a year, with prospective students, just coaching them back and forth in their work. Why? Because we want to make sure that not only that you would be the right fit for Gnomon, but that Gnomon's going to be the right fit for you. And that's because we want to make sure that you're able to walk into that trajectory and you're going to have the best possible chance at being admitted into our full-time program. So I can't stress it enough, guys. By reaching out to admissions at Gnomon, you're not making any sort of a commitment to come to the school. You're just essentially initiating that conversation that's going to be a coaching conversation to help you with your plans and your goals. So I can definitely encourage you to do that. On the chat today, we're going to provide some links in how you can reach out to our admissions team to start talking about whatever you might be interested in at Gnomon. All right. So with that, we're all kind of stuck at home right now. We're not able to get out. Unfortunately, I can't invite you out to a tour of our campus, but I can do the next best thing. And that is I want to show you a video of what our campus is like at Gnomon. So here we go. All right. So you might have noticed that our campus is not sort of a typical academic college campus. That's because we're actually housed on a production lot in Hollywood. We're on the original lot for Technicolor. Those are the guys that invented color film for movies way back in the day. We get to be there now, which allows us to immerse our students in an actual production environment. The way that we set up our campus, our labs, everything, we don't want to just put you in four walls with a computer learning skills. We want to put you in the kind of environment that's going to help develop those soft skills as well, those interpersonal skills that are going to be sought after by studios when you go out to work in the industry. So we want to immerse you in the kind of environment you're going to be working in one day. Being in Hollywood is also very strategic for us as a school. As Iain mentioned earlier, our instructors are amazing. And that is because every instructor at Gnomon is required to be a working industry professional in order to teach at Gnomon. So that means that they're literally coming from their day job in studio into the Gnomon campus to teach the very same techniques and workflows that they're using as a professional on a daily basis. That gives our students a 100% current knowledge of that skill set in the industry, and it also allows you to be with people that can be that are going to help you have the knowledge of what it actually is like to be in studio, of what studios are looking for, and in some cases, our instructors have even been door openers. So a lot of people ask me as a recruiter about internship opportunities, and there are possibilities to have an internship, but you need to understand that by being in class with an instructor at Gnomon, you already are developing a relationship with someone that is out there working at a studio, and it's going to help you gain that type of knowledge. The only difference is if you're in a full-time program at Gnomon, you're with many different instructors and getting exposure to many different studios as you're going through the program. The other thing about being located in Hollywood is that it puts us in proximity to many studios, well over 800 studios just in the Los Angeles area alone. We're in the entertainment production capital of the world. And so we have a placement department that is actively working year-round to build relationship with these different studios, to get to know their recruiters, their art directors, and to find out exactly what these studios are looking for. And then they use that knowledge to coach our students. Roughly about halfway through the full-time program, you're going to start working on your demo reel. And as you're putting together that reel, our placement team is going to review it and going to give you advice based on the kind of trajectory and position you're looking for. They're going to tell you exactly what's going to need to be in your reel, what those studios are looking for. They're going to coach you through what the interview process is going to be like. You're going to learn how to communicate, how to write emails to recruiters and art directors. We're going to equip you not just with technical knowledge, but also with the soft skills you're going to need to go out there and find your first job in the industry. Because of all of this, guys, Gnomon has a very high placement rate. Just last year in 2019, our placement rate was at 97%. And the year before that, in 2018, it was 100%. That means that percentage of our graduates from our full-time program were finding their first job in studio in the industry within 6 months of finishing our program. That's a very high placement rate. We've always had a placement rate of well above 90%. This is very important to us. It's part of our mission. So if you're interested in developing skills for the industry, this is the place to be. Next up, just want to cover a few of our events. We have active events always going on at our school. When we are on campus, we host them at our stage and broadcast them via Twitch. Right now, we're still doing events, and those are on our Twitch channel, this very same channel that you're at right now. These are examples of some of the events we've done recently. And a couple things that I'd like to highlight is that we are having every Wednesday an art jam with our Chief Creative Officer, Josh Herman. Josh is an industry veteran. He has worked on some amazing projects, including working with Cloud Imperium Games, working with Marvel Studios. He helped design many of the suits for Iron Man and Iron Man 2, as well as worked on Groot for Guardians of the Galaxy. He's done some amazing things, and he, every Wednesday, is having an art jam from 9 in the morning to 12 noon, where he's been working in projects on ZBrush, showing his workflow and what he is doing. He is going to be also be doing an event soon where he is going to be playing Valorant with a couple of the artists that worked on the game. That's going to be with Devin Fay. He was the lead artist on Valorant, and that is going to be at 11:44 a.m. And I believe, Ray, that this Wednesday? On Thursday, sorry, 11:44 a.m. on Thursday. Or sorry, no, that was the time that I got the message. On Thursday evening for one of our Gnomon events at 7 p.m. Josh Herman is going to be playing Valorant with Devin Fay, who worked on Valorant. It's going to be an amazing opportunity to see these guys get to play a game together. And then also, we want to encourage you to tune into those Wednesday art jams. So with that, guys, this is a recent event that we had. But with that, guys, I want to say, lastly, as we're coming through this, time of social distancing and whatnot, we are looking forward to being able to open up our campus again and bring you out for one of our open house events. If you are interested in any of Gnomon's programs, this really is the best way for you to get, one-to-one, see our campus, take an interactive tour, speak with admissions and financial aid, even speak with current Gnomon students. In our VR lab, you're going to get the opportunity to put on a VR headset and actually step inside some of our 3D artwork that our students are making. So our next couple of open house dates that we have set to provide this experience for you is going to be Sunday, June 28th from 10:30 in the morning to 3 p.m. And then another one on Sunday, September 20th from 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. And those are the times that our campus is open for you to walk on, take that interactive tour, as well as see an in-depth presentation about careers for artists and how Gnomon is training artists for those careers. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. As I mentioned earlier, Ray and Xander are available in the chat still for you to type your questions in about Gnomon, anything that you might need to know. But thank you so much for taking the time to join the stream, the amazing time that you were able to have with Iain McCaig, as well as this Gnomon info session that I've been able to do for you afterwards. And I think just in closing, I'll say, if you have any interest at all, if what Iain shared today has sparked something in you that's helped you to be willing to pursue something further, and if what you want to pursue further has to do with Gnomon, definitely reach out to one of our admissions advisors. They're going to be able to help you take the next steps, and they're going to help you to be able to clarify your goals and coach you in your artwork. So thank you very much, guys.